So it's time for another episode of Doyle. I don't know if we're going to make it through the entirety of this video for a very specific reason. Doyle's audio is shit in this episode. His microphone audio, he puts a thing up on screen here in a second. You'll see it. But basically, his microphone audio was unsalvageable for some reason. Which, by the way, has happened to me before when we recorded stuff for Hannah and Jake. Years in the past. It hasn't happened in a long time because we're very careful about it, because that kind of thing happens and you want to make sure. But in those cases, you know what I do? I re-record the episode. John Doyle doesn't want to do that here, so we're going to get camera audio from him, and it's going to be very grating. So we're going to try our best to watch this, and then, at some point, if we can't handle the echoey sounds of John Doyle's bedroom, then we'll move on. But I thought it'd be worth looking at because this video is entitled The Betrayal from the GOP. Heck off, commie. And this is him talking about how the GOP has betrayed Trump for not backing his coup attempt. Sometimes I relate to John because, we both wear stupid novelty hats. So I understand where he's coming from. What did I miss on here? Thrash Mio with 20 bits. Poll isn't over. Electors haven't chosen yet. I guess we'll just have to wait and figure out what's going on. Where's Sidney Powell? We need to get Giuliani in on this. Colossus TV. I don't know. I don't feel very secure about my poll vote. How dare you? That poll was conducted by Dominion. How dare you? Colossus TV. We've got evidence that the results of that poll were fraud, but I can't show you right now. True. That's the best kind of evidence, the kind that you can't ever show anyone. My hat's better, though? True. Steampunk. This is funny because it's true. Steampunk hats will still be relevant to a certain group of enthusiasts in 5 years, whereas Trump hats will not. So, why do I make myself laugh? Anyway, here we go.
Do you ever wonder why things just keep getting worse? Do you ever wonder if it...
Oof. Why? Why did you not just re-record this, John? Why do you do this to my ears? Thrash Mio with 20 bits. Does Trump's legal team also have the golden tablets? Yeah, Rudy Giuliani. That's actually what was leaking down his face. There's like residual prophecy juice if you put your head too close, and it was leaking out of him.
Ever gets any better? Why is it that Republicans keep winning elections and yet the country keeps moving farther to the left? Like every decade, we get more of the same, regardless of public opinion. And
John, the reason the country continues to move what you consider further left despite the fact that Republicans win elections is because the populace is mostly either centrist, independents, or left-leaning, right? The Republicans and conservatives in this country are a minority. They are. So even though you've been able to win things through like gerrymandering or the Electoral College, stuff like that, nonetheless, the populace of the actual United States, all of the United States is the actual United States. I'm not singling out similar to how right-wingers will be like, oh, if you remove California. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying the majority of people who live in the United States, all 50 states and its territories, are more left-leaning than they are right-leaning, at least on social issues. Economic issues is an entirely different thing. Most people are fine with gay marriage. Most people, I think, are fine with trans people existing. The different specific issues are gonna, vary. But, like, we've continually moved further left socially as time has gone on. That's the problem with being a conservative. You're inherently positioning yourself in a losing position. No time in history ever has a conservative viewpoint held up against time. Culture is always changing, so if you plant yourself somewhere in culture and say, right now, this is where culture should stop changing and anything else is progressive and bad, you're gonna lose because society always moves on. You can try and hold it back as long as you can, but you're always gonna lose at some point. That's just how it works. MMO Addicted with 20 bits. I made bao buns today and a spicy sweet filling. I'll take a look. Ooh, those look good. You said they're spicy, though? I'm not big on spicy.
regardless of the supposed victories of the Republican Party in terms of winning elections. And I'm not...
The Dark Blue Fool with 20 bits. This audio reminds me of when we had an assignment in middle school and had to make a video skit. You'd think he'd at least have, I don't know, His microphone's really, really bad. It doesn't sound like he soundproofed his room, but...
Not even talking about the post-war neoliberal paradigm that we've talked about recently with mass immigration, endless wars, sending jobs overseas. I'm talking about specifically within the Republican Party, despite insane amounts of financial backing from good Americans such as yourselves, despite a very clear outline of why we are electing them to represent us, as evidenced especially through President Trump having a 95% approval rating in his party, and it is his party, we still get more gun control. We still...
John, I don't necessarily agree with you there. I don't think the president at the time, if someone from your party, Republican or Democrat, is the president, I don't think that necessarily makes them the head of the party. In fact, that's a really bad place to position yourself, because specifically if you're saying the Republican Party is the party of Trump, which in many ways I understand what you're saying, but you're literally saying it is Trump's party, then you've positioned yourself in a way to make your party losers on the whole when Trump loses. That's not a good thing to say. Donald Trump should be, if you want the Republican Party to continue in some form or another and be successful, you should be able to, and I'm sure you'll pivot to this at some point, shouldn't be, the Republicans are Trump's party, it's Trump is a Republican, and he's the highest elected official who happens to be a Republican, but he should be echoing conservative values. The Republicans shouldn't be echoing just the values of Trump, which it seems to be your position. And I'm sure you're going to say, well, Trump is, very conservative. He's not really. There are a lot of things I hate about Donald Trump, and there are things that are Republican and right-leaning that he does, but he's not all that conservative, right? He's certainly not a fiscal conservative. He's raised the deficit, you know what I mean? So, I don't understand where exactly this is coming from. What did I miss? MMO addicted with 20 bits. Shot of the better batch. Those first ones were the first ones I ever made, so are more misshapen, and you can do any filling you want. I just did spicy, sweet. I can't pronounce that word. Something Wagyu beef. I was feeling like it. Then there's another image. Okay. Look good.
Pour trillions of dollars into nothing, which makes you and I debt slaves for the rest of our lives, paying off debt for bullshit that no one agreed to and that was lobbied for by multinational corporations. Literally just a state-facilitated transfer of wealth from us to them.
Right, and that's bad, John. I completely agree. I think many Democrats are complicit with the Republicans in the huge transfer of wealth that have happened over the course of this last year during COVID lockdowns and the loans and stuff that have been given out that were supposed to be for small businesses effectively being seized upon by large corporations. It's just been a huge corporate handout. I agree. That's bad. That's something John and I actually agree on. Our solutions to that problem, however, seem to be very different. It seems to me the solution to that problem would be ensuring that money isn't in politics to sway them to do things like that. Like when you have super PACs and PACs that are getting donations, huge amounts of money from companies to support candidates. It seems to be that that's just a legal way of doing bribery in one way or another. So the people who support the politicians and make sure they can get elected by having funds to fund their campaigns are the ones who end up benefiting from policies the most. That's why when we have stuff like, we need relief from COVID and from lockdowns and stuff like that. Oh, well, we'll give people $1,200 for, a year, which works out to like $5 a day or something like that if you took it since the beginning of lockdowns and divided that out. But we'll give billions and billions of dollars to these large corporations, even though they're still going to cut huge amounts of their staff and downsize huge amounts of people. Like, that's not good. That's because of the incentive structure that we have in this country for elections, for the people who are in Congress and who represent us. That's a problem that needs to be solved systematically. Just wagging your finger and being like, well, Donald Trump doesn't want this, which isn't even true because Donald Trump's company apparently received some of those COVID funds, right? Like, he doesn't have a small business, yet he received those anyway. Donald Trump is a recipient of that sort of unfair corporate advantage, and you expect him to do something about it. It doesn't make any sense.
Housing costs are out of control. The cost of a college education is out of control.
Again, issues that want to be solved by people like Bernie Sanders, people like AOC. I know you don't like either of them, John, but at the very least, these are problems that they want to tackle, right? They want to actually use the government to help people, unlike Donald Trump, who seems to only want to enrich himself, right? And even Joe Biden, going to be a very centrist corporate candidate that's probably going to be like, we need to lower the deficit by, I don't do a good Biden impression. We need to lower the deficit. We need to lower the deficit, Jack. We need to cut all this social safety nets. We need to cut Social Security. I'm sure he's going to do a bunch of dumb shit like that. I also disagree with him, right? Which is why we need to be able to get on the same page about a lot of these issues so it stops being so partisan. It should not be a partisan issue for us to be able to talk and tell our representatives the amount of money you are getting from corporations is completely fucked up, and it is ensuring that you aren't serving people, you're serving corporations, right? That's an issue. It's something that at this point, because of Citizens United, might need a constitutional amendment. I don't know, but the fact is the system that we currently have isn't working, and it's creating a situation where John and I are agreeing on something. Think about how fucked up a system has to be for me and John Doyle to agree about a fundamental problem like this. Our solutions are very different. But at least we're recognizing that there is a problem at play. MMO Addicted with 20 bets here. Listen, man. We can't let the deficit be bigger than my son's dong, Jack. Did you guys see Hunter Biden's penis? It's huge. Absolutely ginormous. That is scary. Muted.
Hate their country, they're going to public school, they're being taught the same thing. Money is taken out of your paycheck every week to subsidize the indoctrination of your children into future generations.
You're describing public school. John. And no, education isn't indoctrination. I know it might seem that way because the higher educated you are, the more likely you're going to be left-leaning, at least socially, if not economically, but that's because, as it turns out, I think Stephen Colbert said this on the first episode of the Colbert Report. It was like early on, something along the lines of reality has a liberal bias. As it turns out, when you focus your entire party and your ideology around denying reality, then when you teach facts, it's going to skew people towards the party that's more in touch with reality. Funny how that works. Harry K5 with 20 bits. A lot of corps give bribes, donations to both parties to hedge their bets. They know ours will do their bidding no matter what, but if the Ds win somehow, then the Ds are paid to be tepid liberals. When they aren't liberal enough, they lose. In short, Ds are paid to lose. Yeah, I get what you're saying. MMO Addicted with 20 bets here. Oh no, I already read that one.
It becomes harder for young people to grow up in a stable, healthy environment, get a job, start a family. Every decade this happens. Like, how do you plan to conserve the country if you are not incentivizing and enabling young people to start families? Like, what are you even...
Yes, and John, how is he this close to understanding the problem, but he comes to completely wrong conclusions? John, the reason young people aren't having children, which is something you like, I think it's best for people to be able to choose for themselves, but I'm sure there are people who would have kids and get married if they felt they were in a more stable position financially and socially to some extent. This is a problem because wages have stagnated, and again, you're right, jobs have been shipped overseas, but those jobs also aren't necessarily coming back because a lot of those jobs have now, since they've been taken away, been replaced by automation. So what we need to do is ensure that there's enough jobs for everyone. Something like, I don't know. And again, people are going to vary on whether or not they support this, but stuff like the Green New Deal, which is going to be a huge project that's going to help develop tons of new technologies and help make the country more sustainable, environmentally speaking, which is a real problem, John. I know you don't think it is, but it is. Or at the very least, ensuring that, like, people can unionize and get better deals for them and their fellow workers from the people who pay their salaries, so all the wealth isn't going directly to the top 1% like it currently is. We need to be able to fix these problems, but you're not going to do so with someone like Donald Trump, because Donald Trump's goal is not to help people. His goal is to make himself look good and to enrich him and his family. Harry K5 with 20 bits. With more automation replacing jobs, UBI is looking more and more inevitable. It's going to have to be, or society's going to collapse. If we continue to see automation going the direction that it's going, there simply will not be enough jobs for the people that exist. That's unsustainable. You can't have a bunch of homeless people. You can't have like 20% of the population not having a source of income. You have to do something about that. MMO Addicted with 1,000 bits. To this day, I'm surprised you don't just have a set amount of funds every campaign gets refunded if they get at least 2% of votes, making donations and shit less required. Elections should have a set spending limit, not to a race throwing money around like my ascent to stream divinity. Yeah, there's, you could have publicly funded elections, so everyone has the same amount and it's not as susceptible to, like, lobbying and stuff like that. Not that lobbying in and of itself is necessarily a bad idea. Like, for instance, like, if you're a nonprofit organization and you're like, oh, I want to lobby that, like, oh, child trafficking is an issue, which it is. That's fine. That's lobbying. But, like, corporate lobbying, where, like, I don't know, a cigarette company is going to come and be like, oh, we don't want, you know, these restrictions on cigarettes. That's bad. So, I don't know. But, yeah, publicly run elections would cut a lot of that shit out.
Trying to conserve? And the answer is actually nothing. They're not trying to conserve anything because the GOP is a political abomination. I have contempt
Agree?
for them. I abhor them.
In a lot of ways, I would agree in the same way about the DNC, although I think the Republicans are worse, but, you know.
I think the degree to which they have betrayed their voters over the course of, let's say, the last 35 years amounts to nothing less than a crime. The righteous, the righteous hates falsehood, but the wicked brings shame and disgrace. Yeah, we're going to go over how the GOP has betrayed its voters in terms of President Trump and even recently in the Senate with unanimously voting to sell out American workers. I'm going to name all of the Republicans who I will never support again in any capacity. I'd advise you to do the same.
John is definitely in the anger phase of coping with the Biden win. MMO Addicted with 40 bits also as an economist and a social capitalist. Automation will fuck capitalism and lead to a huge market collapse if there's no UBI. Money will be like spice, must flow. Yeah. If you have a bunch of people who own the machinery that automatically makes the goods and no one has a job making stuff or doing something in the service industry to have the money to buy the stuff made by the things that are being made autonomously, then who are you making the stuff for, right? So at some point we lost sight of the entire point of society, right? Like, our entire focus shifted to, like, how much money can I make? How much stuff can I make? When really the entire point of society should be, hey, how can we help each other survive and have a good quality of life, right? That should be the goal. But it's so shifted that we've just lost sight. I don't know.
We're going to talk about the future of American conservatism, why this is actually a good thing for us, and even something that we sort of predicted a while back. You know, we'll not break our arm patting ourselves on the back, but do stay tuned.
The Profane Priestess says, automation doesn't have to be a bad thing. It could free us all from the need to work so we can do things we enjoy instead. I agree. I think automation can be an amazing, wonderful thing, right? Especially in terms of, like, dangerous jobs and stuff like that. But let's say, you know, long time from now, let's say we deal with climate change and we're able to continue into the future, and at some point most jobs are able to be automated. That'd be a wonderful thing. It'd allow people to live their lives more freely, allow them to focus on endeavors that they want to focus on rather than just being able to survive to put food on the table. That'd be nice. But the benefits of that automation need to help everyone in society, not just a select few, right? That's something that we need to focus on, because so far the system that we currently work under benefits the very few at the expense of the many. It's really, really bad. But I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to fix that system when you're in a country full of people who think they're all, like, somehow, in a couple of years I'll be a billionaire and then I'll be reaping the benefits of this terrible system that's weighted so far in favor of wealthy people. And it's, how do you get people to understand? Average people, you, me, people who, do work even manufacturing jobs, even if they pay well, whatever. You're more likely to become homeless due to some accident or financial burden you're not expecting than you are to ever become a billionaire. You're just not going to do it. It doesn't make any sense to have these private sector monarchs that have so much power and influence that they are accountable to no one, and they have more wealth than any one person should have, because wealth is power, right? A stake in a company like Amazon, if you're just Jeff Bezos, that's power. No one individual should have all that power. Right, it's not healthy. Propaganda. We've learned this time and time again in society, right? But we fall into the same traps, so it is what it is. Angry Dead Cat, thank you for following. Bobmatized, thank you also for following.
Doyle in. Heck off, commie.
Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Heck Off Commie. I'm a little disappointed in myself, to be honest with you, because we were supposed to do the updated video about pornography for this November, but then like a week and a half ago, something kind of messed up happened, and I was just out of it for a few days, kind of trying to process that. People on the website, I think, know what I'm talking about, because I did put a video up for members talking about it briefly. So I was way behind, and then I started trying to get the research for this all together, and then last night I realized that there was just no way that that was going to come out today, just because I had to figure out how to condense and then present all this information. So I'm a little disappointed in myself, but it will come out soon. I think it's going to be one of the most important videos that we've ever done on
Logarth of 50 Bits, his parents are also disappointed in him. They aren't. Oh god, who told me this the other day? I don't remember. Someone I know said they knew someone. This is complete hearsay, but this is coming from someone who apparently I live in Michigan, right? I at least compared to all of you relatively close to John Doyle, right? I could theoretically, go to the subway John Doyle used to work at. Maybe he still does. I don't know. But I'm not going to do that. I would never do that to someone. Even if I joke about it. But either way, someone I know knows someone who went to high school with John Doyle. And they said one time on a field trip, John Doyle, they were on like a bus to go to the field trip or whatever, and people were probably listening to music or something, and John Doyle's mom apparently lectured everyone on the bus how Imagine by John Lennon is socialist propaganda. Someone in chat went to school with him. Okay, if it was from chat, then that's questionable if that's true or not, but it's a funny story. Anyway, back to the video.
the channel. So
I know someone who does know someone who went to high school with him in real life, though. I don't remember who.
stay tuned for that. And then tomorrow, I'm headed down to Texas yet again to go on Elijah Schaefer's podcast, so that should be good. A lot of people give him a hard time because they think he's
Oh, a comment on YouTube? Okay.
like this fake conservative or something. I don't know. I know him personally, and that's just like not even remotely true. So we're looking forward to that. And then once we get back from Texas, we'll get going on a more frequent schedule here because there was a lot to talk about. But I think that right now, the most important thing that we should be talking about is who our friends are. A lot of the time, actually the vast majority of the time, we as the right like to point the finger across the aisle and criticize the left for whatever they're doing, rightfully so. But the problem with that is that it presupposes that action is being taken by those on our side with the power to do so, which is then what enables us to focus all of our energy and
I'm confusing the fact that you went to school with his cousin. That's what it is. Okay, my bad.
resources towards the opposition, like outwards. And that's why a lot of what we do on this channel is actually just criticizing the so-called conservative leadership, whether that's in media, government, NGOs, etc. Because our success ultimately has much less to do with how incompetent our opposition is and much more to do with how competent and authentic we are.
Fight, fight, fight.
Which is why I guess the plurality of what we talk about on this channel is self-improvement, and not like in the cringe influencer sense of you should be getting up at 4:30 and meditating for 20 minutes before taking a cold shower and reading a Dave Ramsey book. And don't get me wrong, I unironically think that cold showers are good, but
John Doyle, for those who don't know, thinks masturbation is wrong. So according to him, he never does it. So it's probably why he's a fan of cold showers. I don't believe that. I don't believe for a second John Doyle doesn't do a thing that literally every human being does. I just don't. It's posturing.
the point is that it's not enough to simply be correct or to simply be good. This is referred to as the Sir Galahad theory of politics, this idea that, well, I will win because my heart is pure. And unfortunately, that's not the case. You actually have to take the offensive. You have to have the means to do so in terms of infrastructure, resources, and willpower. And right now, I look at the American conservative movement, and on the one hand, I see incredibly patriotic and good people who can recite passages from upper-level treatises and Austrian economic theory off the top of their head. But then on the other hand, I see the same people, and they are demoralized, they are disillusioned because they are suffering the consequences of having been abandoned and sold out by the people who they elected and paid to represent them. And that's why it's so much more important to be getting young men off vices like drugs and pornography, getting them in shape, etc., because the gravity of the situation that our leaders have put us in through their failures, or I guess their inaction more precisely, it's put us into a position where our only chance of being successful is to be literally as strong as possible, both mentally and physically. Like, we cannot afford to be anything less than sharp, anything less than high energy, in shape, not only because it'll make you more confident, but also because it makes people more accepting of what you have to say, because you're going to look imposing, you're going to look epic.
Oh, John. John, no. Imposing and epic. Look, John, I'm glad you're in shape. I am. You're in shape. I'm happy for you. But when I think imposing and epic, I don't tend to think someone sitting in their bedroom wearing a three-piece suit for no reason. Not even a three-piece suit, just a suit for no reason. And a MAGA hat. A suit and a baseball cap don't go together. You don't want to do that. Just a bit of advice.
Lifting weights is unironically a political strategy. A lot of people think I'm scrawny, which I think is an inevitable side effect of being a 20-year-old mesomorph with glasses and a politics obsession, but I'm going to put
What's a mesomorph? Hold on. Mesomorph, a human physical type that is marked by greater than average muscular development as determined by the physique classification system developed by the American psychologist W.H. Sheldon. Although the Sheldon system of classification does not make absolute distinction between types, a person is classified as mesomorph if mesomorphy predominates over endomorphy and ectomorphy in his body build. Let's see, mesomorph, ectomorph. Okay, so he's just saying he's like a thinner, leaner person, but he still has muscle. Okay, fine. I can believe that.
a video up that was taken before they shut the gyms down, just to prove that I do practice what I preach. I wasn't going to do it because it's sort of cringe. Like, hey, bro, look at me, but with less clothes on. But 80% of you guys said you wanted it. I guess democracy...
Oh, no. Are we going to see John Doyle without a shirt? He might have abs, and that's fine. I'm happy for him if he does, but I don't particularly want to see John without a shirt. And Wreath with 20 bits, don't be John Doyle. John Juresk? I don't know what that is. MMO addicted to 20 bits, wait for it. A goal on Doyle's OnlyFans to get a custom MAGA fedora sewn to him to match his suits.
Democracy is not cringe sometimes.
Oh no! Oh no!
I'm trying
A cleanse for later. Yeah, we're gonna need
to prove
it.
a point here, which is that every young man should be
John.
physically fit, and also that every leftist...
I didn't need to see that. I didn't need to see that at all. Every time John wants to crank one out, he just does. He lifts weights in his bedroom. That's how he gets it. Logarth with 20 bits. Ah, my eyes, so white. Oh God, Lord, it burns. Hey, I'm with John on this one. I also have very porcelain skin.
There's nothing funny about the tools of capitalism.
Boy with the fairy with some bits. Why does John think that looks good? Hey, like, I'm not gonna make... No. Guys, John's in shape. I don't find him attractive, but that's okay. I don't have to. He's physically fit. Good for him for being in shape. I didn't need to see it, but there we are.
who makes videos about me is just coping because they know that my friends and I would have bullied them in high school. So, anyways.
Is he wearing the hat ironically, or is it part of his shtick? It's part of his shtick. He's MAGA all the way. John is a serious case of skinny muscles. Guys, don't make fun of the way John Doyle looks, okay? I don't think making fun of the way people looks is cool. Harry K5 with 20 bits. I think Sheamus from WWE is... Again, nah, okay, I'm not reading any more bits messages that make fun of the way John Doyle looks.
Onto the betrayal of President Trump.
My rule is I don't read stuff that makes fun of the way people look. It's just not cool, even if you don't like the person. I don't like John Doyle. I think John Doyle's a bad guy. But why would I make fun of the way he looks? Stupid. I've even fallen not victim to that. I've fallen into that before too, and I understand it's tempting to want to do that, but it's a cheap shot, and it makes you look bad when the best thing you can come up with to say about someone is like, oh, let me say something about the way they look. Not helpful.
We have to understand that a betrayal of President Trump is fundamentally a betrayal of us, the people who voted him into office.
Is this dude going to wear the same hat 2 years into the Biden presidency? He's a literal Nazi, though? Sure, then address him on that point. What's bad about Nazis or fascists isn't how they look. It's that they're Nazis and fascists. Address it for what it is. Don't straw man and don't ad hom. That's not good. Random invite with 30 bits. True, let's judge people by how they think like and not how they look. And then it's a link to a... I actually don't think I can look at this Liberty Hangout link. They blocked me. I'm blocked by Liberty Hangout on Twitter. Yeah, see? They didn't like that I said that they wanted to lick Daddy Trump's boot or something.
Especially considering his approval rating with Republicans, and even more so considering the fact that what we witnessed with Donald Trump in 2016 was a political revolution not seen on the right since maybe Ronald Reagan. And even then, I would make the argument that Trump has been more significant than Ronald Reagan. And, you know, that might be weird for some of us to hear because modern conservatism has canonized Saint Reagan. But the reason for that is largely branding and obfuscation. And I mean, no disrespect to Ronald Reagan. I think that he was a pretty good president. But the reason...
Iran-Contra, what's that? Colossus TV with 20 bits when you look great, but you're a friggin' douche. Yeah, basically.
That so much of modern conservatism is dedicated to...
Jalen Jean with 20 bits. John Doyle has enough shitty internal qualities we can critique for us to be roasting his yeah. Making fun. If we make, maybe this is, I don't want this video to just be me talking about this like it's an after school special, but if I make fun of someone like John Doyle because I don't like what he has to say, and I don't like what he has to say, I think he's a bad guy, but if I, instead of addressing those points, make fun of the way he looks, then all I'm teaching other people is that it's okay to do that, right? Why do that? I can talk about the things he's talking about and say I don't agree with them without turning it into an ad hom back and forth. That's stupid. MMO Addicted with 20 bits here, Hannah Banana, and then it's a link. I assume it's a link to that tweet, maybe. You love Jake, but he makes fun of people's looks and body, and it's like, yikes, yes it is. I don't like that he does that, but it's his stream. He could do whatever he wants on his stream, but I don't like that shit. This is what it said. Real libertarians think drugs and porn should be banned. Wow. Much libertarian. Very liberty.
Ronald Reagan is that he is a symbol of one of the only victories that conservatism has had in the last 100 years, which is that we won the Cold War. Therefore, communism is bad, and freedom and capitalism are good. And speaking of capitalism, allow me to shamelessly transition into epic holiday gift guide mode.
It is I, yet again, here to help you with the tough decisions this holiday season.
See, okay, John, this is fine. A baseball cap or a trucker hat with like a zip-up hoodie, that's fine. And just a white t-shirt, that's a fine look for you. That's good. Again, I'm not making fun of the way he looks. I'm giving fashion advice. These are two different things. I just think the suit with the cap, it's like when people wear t-shirts with fedoras. First of all, never wear a fedora, ever. I say this in a bowler hat, but I'm doing a Twitch stream, so I know the hat looks stupid. It's intentional. But like, it's like when neckbeards, you know, wear a t-shirt with a fedora. You're formal up top and casual on the bottom, except you're doing the opposite. You're doing casual up top, formal on the bottom when you wear the suit with the MAGA hat. But
And look, we all know that men are hard to shop for. Why is that? Because if a man wants something, we just go get it. It's a very simple process, right? Like point A to point.
You think fedoras are nice? You can think whatever you want. They've been ruined. They've been ruined. It's one thing if you're wearing like an actual three-piece suit, I guess. But like, it's been made so cringe by the type of people that wear them. Articles of clothing and styles can be ruined. Just ask anyone who's had a Hitler mustache prior to World War II and then after, right? Hitler ruined that for everyone. Incels made everyone look at like fedoras or hats like that and go, they're trying to be classy, but really they're creeps. The boy with the fairy with 20 bits, John's HOC logo on the bottom right always makes me think it's the Yahoo logo. It's the same font or typeface, whatever.
Point B. There's none of this, well, I should wait to see if so-and-so gets it for me to see if they really listen to me when I talk. No, that's dumb. You know what isn't dumb? The iTarget Pro dry fire laser training system. Not only is this one of the coolest things I've ever seen, it's literally the most important thing that you could invest in right now, all things considered, because the country's in chaos. You never know what's going to happen. Ammo costs are through the roof. Can't even find 22 LRs in most sporting goods stores anymore. Plus, everything's locked down. No one wants to be wearing a mask while they're at a range. So we're at a point now where training with your firearms is the most important thing that you could be doing, but it is also
I'm gonna skip the ad.
Use this is sharpening, comes in all your done off the channel. Back to content.
MMO Addicted with 60 bits. Hitler ruined a lot of things. Also, fedoras and bright colors are not ruined. Shitbags are afraid of pastels because they're gay. I'm going to have a cobalt blue 3-piece sewn and matching hat made. Hey, do you. Do what makes you happy.
Very epic, but yeah, that's the message. Capitalism and freedom are good, even though we're not actually free, and even though big business colludes with the government to destroy markets and small business.
Yes, they do. Again, this is why regulations are necessary if you're going to have capitalism, John. You need regulations to keep that sort of thing from happening.
That's still the message. We have lost ground on virtually every issue, ranging from immigration to gun control, fiscal policy, everything. The biggest thing...
You haven't really lost that much ground on gun control. All that's happened is bans on things like, I don't know, bump stocks. Basically, you can still shoot guns. It just takes you a little longer to do stuff, right?
thing that we have is the fact that the USSR collapsed, which is why 30 years later we're still talking about Ronald Reagan, communism, etc. I mean, I should know. Look at the title of my show. So the point is that we have constructed this series of exhausted and manufactured political victories for ourselves, which enable the conservative leadership to make a lot of money from us while ceding ground on virtually every issue, which is why, as you can probably tell, we haven't actually defeated communism or socialism or what have you. It's actually sort of a false flag, to be honest with you.
I don't agree with that sentiment. Communism is not really a presence on the global stage, and you're going to go, China's a totalitarian one-party state that does sort of like state capitalism stuff, right? And hey, I'm in favor of like worker ownership of like business and stuff, like worker co-ops. I think that shit's great. But even I'm not a communist, right? Like I'm a democratic socialist or a socialist or whatever the fuck you want to call it. I don't care. Communism is not a threat to the United States. It just isn't. It just isn't. There are barely any relative to the total population social democrats like myself, right? We exist here on Twitch. We exist in online discourse. But, like, it's not a prevailing political force as of right now. Much less communism, which is like tankies and shit, which are like authoritarian, tend to, not always, but you know, tend to be your authoritarian types, right? That's not a threat.
We've talked about this before briefly, and I want to say somewhat on track here, but the point is that what Donald Trump represents at his core is a transition of power away from the political establishment that has sold out the American people back to the American people, and that's why we knew that he was going to face obstacles even after he was elected, because in order to drain the swamp, you actually have to work with and within the swamp, which is an incredibly tough thing to do, and that's why you had people in his own administration who were and have been working against him, leaking things, subverting him at every...
By the way, I'm thinking of doing, because we do Chud Watch quite a bit. To mix it up, I'm thinking about throwing some Tanky Watch into and doing, responding to basically tanky videos. I think that'd be kind of fun.
Every given opportunity, etc. These were people who were never on board with his agenda, they never supported him, and they wound up undermining him to the fullest extent of their power. Think about that. For 2 years, for the first time since 1953, Republicans nominally controlled all three branches of the federal government. For 2 years. How did we accomplish that? The momentum of the Trump revolution. And what do we get from that? We got tax cuts. Cool. We got a half-ass Obamacare repeal. Do I like taxes? No. Do I like Obamacare? No. However, those are...
I find it interesting that John says he doesn't like Obamacare, but he literally wasn't an adult before Obamacare was a thing, so he has no idea what it's like. Do you think John Doyle's still on his parents' insurance? Because you gotta be, through the Affordable Care Act, you can be on your parents' health insurance until 26, right? Which didn't used to be the case. It used to be 18. Now it's 26 because of the Affordable Care Act. I would bet a great deal of money that John Doyle is benefiting from the Affordable Care Act by still being on his parents' health insurance.
Not the issues on which...
I would put money on it. MMO addicted with 100 bits. Yes, Tanky Watch, please. Those shitbags cost me a lot of stress fucking defending Stalin pieces of shit. Yeah, we'll do it at some point.
Trump ran. And frankly, those issues are not a priority. Did Trump mention them from time to time while campaigning? Absolutely, yeah. But those issues are not what switched almost 10 million Obama voters to Trump. Those issues are not what brought over the independents to our side. Donald Trump won because of immigration, foreign policy, and trade.
It seems to me, and this is what I guess probably establishment Democrats probably know this, but the reason I think Obama, and especially, you know, in his first election, and Trump, why they got so many people to vote for them, and why, in fact, there were Obama voters that ended up voting for Trump, is because both of their campaigns had a narrative of change, right? Obama, very much so, like, I'm going to make positive change, hope, stuff like that. Trump comes in, and even though he's a jackass, I think even Republicans would recognize that Donald Trump is like an abrasive asshole. That's what they like about him. But nonetheless, his campaign was like, I am going to change things. Politicians don't give a shit about you. I am going to come in and fix it. He didn't, obviously. He was just as bad. But the idea is, I think everyone in the country recognizes at this point, the current system isn't working, right? Corrupt politicians who care more about lining their pockets or setting up, a lobbying job after they leave Congress. They're more interested in that than they are in serving the American people. So when you run on those policies, you tend to win, or at least when you run on that rhetoric, not policies. So I don't know why, like, the DNC is so intent on trying to shut up people like AOC or Bernie, because that's a winning strategy, right? It's a winning strategy to not only say, hey, we're going to change things, but actually have policies that are intent on doing that. It's stupid. People are tired of the same shit. They are. I genuinely think Joe Biden only won for two reasons. COVID, and because Trump is an idiot. Trump is an idiot. His mishandling of COVID is basically the reason I think Joe Biden won. And because people are annoyed that Donald Trump can't shut up for 5 minutes. Those are the two things. But in almost, if it was against, let's say, Mitt Romney even, I don't think Joe Biden would have won. I don't. But who knows? You can't do what ifs, you know? You can't live in the hypotheticals. Batty Bell with 700 bits. Snipe. Nice, thank you. And MMO Addicted with 200 bits says, dream on. Fight. Batty Bell with 2,000 bits. Who was dreaming? Wonderful. Thank you for supporting the stream with your petty fights about who's the bits leader.
Because our country, the average American, is tired of seeing people pour into this country from the third world. He is tired of seeing his country's young men and women.
Yikes. Okay, that was, that wasn't even really a dog whistle. It was basically just John saying, I don't like brown people. So that's a shame.
Women go die in the sand for pointless wars that have gone on forever, and he is tired of seeing his country's jobs be sent overseas and being told that being able to theoretically purchase a television for $30 less is worth being raped of the dignity of the American dream. That's why Donald Trump won. But what happened after he was inaugurated? Paul Ryan's Congress worked against his agenda, especially the wall, which was the centerpiece of his campaign, and said, hey, well, let's focus on Obamacare, which they didn't even manage to repeal successfully. And now here we are in 2020.
They got those tax cuts for the wealthy, though, John, and that's always the Republicans' #1 goal. Sorry to break it to you. Honestly, wouldn't surprise me if it's also the DNC's goal, but, we do what we do.
Have betrayed President Trump on the election. We all know that this election was illegitimate, and I ask you...
No, it wasn't. You're wrong on that one, John. I've actually been agreeing with John a lot in this video, although my conclusions from those observations are not the same, obviously. No, John, the election wasn't a fraud. People just really, really hate Donald Trump. I know in your bubble. Everyone has a bubble, right? We all have a bubble. If you're watching me, you probably exist online in many left-leaning spaces, progressive spaces, democratic socialist spaces, whatever. So we hear a lot of that stuff, right? John exists in the opposite. John exists on places like Parler. John exists on places like BitChute. John exists on his own Discord, right? In very, very right-wing authoritarian spaces. So, I guess to John, it probably seems unlikely that Joe Biden would get as many votes as he did. But again, that's just because John spends literally all his time in those spaces. People don't like Donald Trump, John. I know you do. Most people don't. A lot of people do. Most people don't, though. MMO Addicted with 5,000 bits. Power. Unlimited power. Holy crap. That's gotta be at least tied with the biggest bits donation I've ever gotten. Jesus Christ. What do we have for Chud Bingo? We hadn't been playing Chud Bingo, actually. Or at least I hadn't. I guess I don't know.
There's nothing funny about the tools of
Batty Bell with 100 bits. I concede for today. MMO Addicted just threw his money dick on the table. Or their money, Dick. I'm not sure.
Do this now. Where should our allegiance be? Should it be to a party that has failed us? That has failed to accomplish anything substantive or significant or lasting in the past 70 years? Or should it be to a man who sacrificed almost everything only to be stopped by the...
Again, people like John have repeated this talking point, and I've heard it multiple times. Donald Trump sacrificed everything. What did he sacrifice? He sacrificed nothing. After the 20th, he'll go back to being the head of all the corporations he was the head of before the presidency. And in fact, he used the presidency to enrich himself. So, what did he give up? Nothing. He just gained power for 4 years.
The aforementioned party. A lot of people have this take of, well, if we stop supporting Republicans, then the left is going to walk all over us. I understand that, I do. But I would challenge that with, they've been doing that anyways. The only difference being that pledging allegiance to the Republican Party costs you more money and gives you false hope. That's really the most disgusting thing about it. That conservatism in America is not a movement. It is a business. And the product that they are selling you is hope. But they never deliver. They are despicable.
Yeah, I agree. I agree largely about the DNC as well. Political parties in this country are basically at this point, in order to enrich those who are participating in the system in the way that people like Donald Trump do, participating in the way, I don't know, Nancy Pelosi does. Yes, I agree. It's really fucked up, and we need to change the system so that we aren't enticing these people through monetary rewards, through like PACs and stuff. We got to change the system. Publicly funded elections, so you can't have all sorts of campaign donations like that, would be a good call. That would probably require a constitutional amendment, though. So we're very far off from being able to do that, unfortunately. We got to figure something out, though. Especially with the Supreme Court as it is right now. We definitely have to, like, do a constitutional amendment or something.
The way I see it is that we have over 70 million righteously indignant Trump voters, and we're not going anywhere anytime soon. So it is more advantageous for us.
70 million people voted for Donald Trump. I don't think every single one of those people are John Doyle-esque slavishly devoted to him. A good portion, if I had to guess, probably 30 to 40 million, maybe 35. I'd say about half of those probably are pretty intensely into Donald Trump. However, a lot of people vote for Trump because he has an R next to his name and they're more loyal to the Republican Party, but they want tax cuts or things like that, or they think that, you know, oh, the Democrats are going to come and they're going to, you know, install communism, which is stupid. No, they're not. Can't even get them to, like, nail down stuff like banning, you know, fracking or whatever. But, like, I lost my train of thought. Oh, so like I said, yeah, there's a lot of Trump supporters, like 35 million maybe. But what's your goal here, John? Are you going to call for, like, armed insurrection? Because I'm pretty sure that's YouTube TOS. Don't do that.
To starve the GOP of support, of donation.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's good. This is actually great. I agree. John, you and everyone like you who refuses to take the MAGA hat off, please show the GOP that you mean business and do not give them your vote until they, I don't know, indefinitely. Until they, I don't know, give in to whatever your weird whims are. Just especially in Georgia. Don't vote in the runoff elections. Please tell your audience this. MMO Addicted, thank you for gifting a sub to Skywise8. Sweet. Thrash Mio with 20 bits. Less than half the country voted. Less than half of those who voted for Trump. Less than 90% are coup supporters. Yeah.
Of votes until they either submit to our will by capitulation or our people filling up their established infrastructure. And I think that's our best way forward. I said that a few months ago. People were like, well, no, you can't just take over the GOP. Oh, that's never going to work. But then some other people started saying, yeah, you know, it's probably our best bet for the time being. And now everyone's like, okay, yeah, let's go for it. So.
Bile Gherkin, thank you for subscribing at Tier 1. Ooh, Hype Train. Nice.
I'm glad people are coming around because we really just don't have enough time to try to build a new party. We just really don't. We need to force the GOP to actually represent us.
I am curious over the next 5 years, up to and through the the midterms and the next presidential election, how this is going to shake out, because there are a good, probably 30% of Republicans, maybe more. I don't know. I can't tell you. Again, like everyone, I exist in a bit of a bubble, so I'm not sure what the, I'm not sure how many Republicans relative to the overall Republican base are hardcore Trump supporters that are more invested in Trump himself than the GOP. I know Trump has like a 90% approval rating from Republicans, but that tends to be a partisan indicator anyway, so it doesn't really tell you a lot about who's slavishly devoted to him after he loses an election. But I am curious, is this going to be a situation like in the past decade and a half or so, where the Tea Party sort of took over the Republican Party, and it became, the party of the Tea Party, which then sort of evolved into Trumpism as it exists today. Is that going to be the GOP moving forward, or are they going to kind of push the fringe away? I don't know. The cynic in me says that the Trump people are going to take over the party completely and permanently, at least until the next, zeitgeist shift happens, as it always comes. But that would be scary. That'd be very scary, because we already have a party that's basically calling for at least a good portion for a coup, basically. They want Donald Trump to, and I've seen them say this, they want Donald Trump to enact martial law and basically decide that the election is moot. Luckily, at the very least, there are enough establishment Republicans who recognize that would be bad, not only for the populace as a whole, because totalitarian states, as it turns out, really bad, never works out for anyone, but also it's bad for them politically. So they haven't gotten behind him. But imagine a Republican Party that's like entirely Trump supporters, that are these kind of people who freak out on Facebook and believe QAnon. That'd be bad. That would be really, really, really bad. MMO addicted with 20 bits swings cape. Now I must away to the bit cave.
And it's even more disgusting of a betrayal when you consider how many people have benefited, whether in terms of getting elected to office, making money in conservative media, whatever, literally by the momentum of the Trump revolution. But now they have either directly thrown him under the bus, or they have failed to come to his defense. And now they're cementing that betrayal of President Trump, and by extension the American people, in the...
John, it's not a betrayal. They're recognizing the results of a democratic election. Here's what I don't think John understands. Let me see if I can read this one. Ob Diviso, thank you for subscribing with Prime. Here's what I don't think John understands. I think John is smart enough to understand that there wasn't actually election fraud. I do. I don't think John's an idiot. He's young, he's inexperienced, but he's not stupid. He's not. He reads books, he knows, words, he knows how to do stuff. I think he is
funny about the tools of capitalism.
Thank you, Colossus TV, for gifting a sub. And thank you, Cadams, for subscribing with Prime. We're in Hype Train still, by the way. I lost my train of thought. I think John is a pragmatist to a fault. And what I mean by that is I think he recognizes that there isn't actually election fraud in the way that's being claimed by people like Sidney Powell. However, I think he recognizes that it might be advantageous for him and people like him to push that narrative forward. He thinks it's advantageous and potentially a way for Trump to somehow remain in power even though he lost a democratic election. And that's disgusting. That's absolutely disgusting that John would think that way. This is, by the way, why people call John a fascist or an authoritarian, because he is. Because I think John would like nothing more for America to become a one-party state, for Democrats and progressivism to basically be outlawed, and for everyone to be forced to be a conservative. I think that's what he would like to happen. Enreath, thank you for 120 bits, says woohoo. Nice.
There's nothing funny about the tools of
and Pyromancer with 56 bits, hype. John, here's the thing you need to understand. Even many people in the Republican Party recognize that America is built upon its democracy. It's like the greatest value that America has actually had, right? Democracy, the idea that people should have a say in their government, that we have a representative democracy, okay? It's a good thing, and that's why Republicans aren't getting behind Trump, because they recognize, as I'm sure you do even though you won't admit it, that Donald Trump lost. And that's how it works. You lose some elections, you win other ones. John's very young. This is his first election where he's voting, and maybe he doesn't understand this. So the first, time that he loses an election, he thinks it's time to, rile up the base and try and overthrow the government. But no, that's not what you do. You pack your stuff up, you put the hat away, and you get ready for the next election, and you try and do better. That's all you can do.
Senate. And you literally could not write this stuff. They passed a bill in the Senate yesterday with
Colossus TV, thank you for 20 bits. Hype, 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 hype.
Unanimous support from Republicans, who control the Senate, to remove caps on H-1B visas from certain countries, which is going to effectively monopolize the visa system for nationals coming from large countries like India to come over and undercut American workers for jobs, since they will work for less and in worse conditions. And who lobbied for this?
Then what you should do, John, is ensure that there is a bare minimum and raise things like the minimum wage, right? Or ensure that, like, people can get or lobby with their fellow workers for fair wages and compensation and benefits, right? That's a thing that would solve that problem without blocking a bunch of people arbitrarily from coming to the country because you don't like them.
Big tech and big business, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, these companies want to displace American workers and benefit from cheap labor at the expense of American families. And keep in mind, what literally just happened? What was that big thing that just happened and is still happening? The government decided to just see what the heck would happen if they just hit the pause button on a multi-trillion-dollar economy. They've destroyed the livelihoods of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Americans.
John, we're in the middle of a global pandemic, and it's gone very badly for Americans. We have something like 4 or 5% of the global population, but we have 19% of COVID deaths. Did you guys know that? It's bonkers. We're doing a really bad job, John. And I agree. The Senate, especially because of Mitch McConnell, hasn't done dick. They gave $1,200 months and months ago. Not enough. It equals out to, if you divide it by every day that, you know, since the pandemic more or less started, it's like $5 a day. Congress needs to get off their fucking ass and actually push through some sort of stimulus that actually helps people, not companies.
There's nothing funny about
actually
the tools
gives
of
enough money to
capitalism.
people that they can get through this. It sucks. I understand, John. But people are dying. We're having 9/11 death tolls every single day. How much are we up at this point, by the way? U.S. COVID deaths. We're at 279,000 deaths, John. If this death rate were to continue forward and
right,
COVID
capitalistic
swept through the
propaganda.
entire U.S. population, we'd have like 6 million dead people. 5 to 6 million. That's terrible. The numbers are also starting to spike again, and this isn't even with, they've said, this isn't even with Thanksgiving spikes that are still coming in the next week and a half or so. Do you think the economy's going to do well if 6 million Americans die, John? Chrisio with 100 bits. John, your daddy does all this. He uses cheap labor, stiffs them on bills, banned bump stocks, advocated suspending constitutional rights, and more. Yeah. Guys, remember when Donald Trump said, take the guns, ask questions later? That was fun.
We don't even know what the actual unemployment rate is because they don't count the people who have just given up. And so what do Republicans do? What do they decide would be perfect right now? Bringing in people from other countries to take American jobs. Oh, and it gets better. It gets better. They amended the bill. They said, no, we're not just going to have it like this. We want to exclude a country from the program. Which country, sir? China, because they're the bad guys. You couldn't make this stuff up. They're running the same play. It never stops. Nothing ever changes. You sell out the American people. You manufacture political victories against a foreign adversary to convince your voters that you give a shit about them. They did it with the USSR. They did it with the Middle East. Now they're doing it with China. Nothing gets...
He's not wrong about that, but I'm not against, like, visa programs and stuff. I think it's fine. But the fact that they decided to exclude China specifically to be like, China, bad. And I agree. China's government is bad. I agree. But, like, Chinese people who are from China, no, I don't think they deserve to be punished because their government is shit. It's not like they have a say. You know what I mean?
It's better for you and me, but it gets better for big tech. Literally big tech, who censors conservatives. Big tech, they like the H-1B bill, right? They like immigration reform because that's just being passed around the Republican Party now, which just means yet another amnesty. They like the fact that Mitch McConnell and Nancy Pelosi are trying to push the funding bill through without repealing Section 230 like Trump wants, because they do not care that big tech is the single biggest threat to conservatives.
John, if that happened, if what Trump wants to happen happened, you would have the potential of not having this job. Do you understand that, John? Like, the thing that they're talking about is Trump basically wants to repeal something that shields companies like YouTube or Twitter from being sued for the content that people post, right? It's what allows these platforms to function, because if you could sue YouTube for something that you think someone did, on their platform or Twitter or whatever, they'd be getting lawsuits, hundreds and hundreds of them every day. They can't handle that. They can't function as companies. So, John, if what Trump wanted to happen, all these things are going to collapse. YouTube, Twitter, BitChute, every single place. So that would be bad. That would be bad for you and for me. So don't advocate for that shit. It's like, oh God, it's like a sheep advocating for a wolf. You know what I mean? Like, don't do that. Stupid.
They do not care about you. They want your money, and then they go away. I will never vote for a Republican again unless they represent the interests of my family, my community, and my country.
Whenever the Republican primary starts up, and if it's not Trump, John Doyle's going to get behind that person like a good little lapdog, like they all do. Republicans get in line, right? That's what they're good at.
My allegiance is not to a party that has failed. My allegiance is to honest leadership. And that means President Cheeto. And anyone who works against my president is working against me and my family, my country. Those people can shrivel up into a dehydrated mass of carbon and donor money in the lobby of the...
Wouldn't it be funny if John Doyle, because he's young, you know, he's in his very, very early 20s, to my knowledge. Wouldn't it be funny if John Doyle grew up and looked back on this and was like, oh my God, this was so cringe. I was such a cringe lord. Because I think that about myself in, you know, my earlier 20s. I'm in my mid to late 20s at this point. I've been doing YouTube for like a decade, and I look back on that shit and I'm like, oh, that's cringe. This is terrible. I assume John Doyle will be the same. I hope John Doyle will be the same.
Cato Institute for all I care. Mitt Romney, Marco Rubio, Brian Kemp, Pat Toomey, Liz Cheney, Lisa Murkowski, Ben Sass, Susan Collins. You guys are all spineless, sycophantic snakes. Little Marco, me and you, big guy, undercard for McGregor versus Paul. WWE career match, loser retires from politics. You've sold us out. You made a lot of money doing it. It's okay. It's okay. We're calm. You've shown your true colors now, and we're not going to forget it. We're going to make it our overriding ambition to take power away from you guys and give it to those who represent our interests. Am I a little heated? Yeah. Am I demoralized? No. I am channeling my frustration into action, and millions of other people are doing the same. So in a way, this is actually good. And we needed this to happen. We were never going to get anywhere with spineless leadership. And it's better for us to have been put into a bad place that shocked us awake into realizing that than to have been continuously lulled.
I'm glad we lost, guys. I'm glad we lost the election. This is good for us, actually.
There's nothing funny about the tools of capitalism.
The boy with the fairy with 38 bets. Most of my Republican neighbors are a bit like John Doyle. All already said they won't participate in the runoffs if they use Dominion machines. Good. Wouldn't it be hilarious if all of Trump's bullshit demoralized Republicans in Georgia to the extent that it won the runoff elections for the Democrats? Beautiful. Beautiful.
Into this sort of destructive path of ours. Happy Thanksgiving, belated, by the way. Hey, it's going to be fun, right? It's going to be a good time taking back the country over the course of the next several decades. Can't wait. We've got good people on our side.
I'm excited, John. I'm excited to watch the next 4 decades of John Doyle content.
Haven't taken power yet, you know?
Yeah, he's in the anger phase, for sure. He's mad. He mad.
Hey guys, if you like this video, leave it a thumbs up, leave it a comment, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and then of course, share the video with a friend. That's how you help the channel grow, and by extension, that's how you help us take the culture back. You can laugh, but it's true, we're effective. We're excited for the undercard fight, Rubio versus me, career match on the line, Taker versus Michaels. I'm Undertaker, he's Shawn Michaels, except no one likes him, so I'm also Shawn Michaels. And then he's like, I don't know, I would win that fight. By the way, this is not like a legitimate threat or anything because it would be a consensual, you know, we would sign off on it and we would agree to this. And he'll agree, I'm in contact with his team right now. But I think, because he's kind of got the dad bod, he's like larger than I am in terms of sheer mass. And a lot of people always think that that's the biggest indication of who's going to win the fight. I would take issue with that. I know that my cardio is better than him. I would imagine that my strength level is roughly the same. And so what's going to happen is I just have
This
to
goes on
dodge.
for another minute. What the fuck? Logarth with 20 bits. What is he even rambling about? He's making up a fake fight between him and Marco Rubio for jokes.
His attacks, maybe not let him grapple me for the first 5 minutes, and then eventually he's going to wear himself out. He's going to get tired, at which point I can just, you know, clear him out, win the match. He retires from politics. I move down to Florida. I room with Tom Brady. Tom Brady and I have actually been planning this for quite some time in order to kind of re-cement, or I guess permanently cement Florida as a Republican stronghold, since Texas seems to be kind of going blue. We're going to really try to establish a sort of last line of defense in Florida. And so Tom Brady signed with Tampa Bay. Few will take this into account, by the way. And then he's actually going to let me room with him in Giselle.
We got to get through the whole bad comedy bit. We got to.
In Florida, after taking out Marco Rubio. Because that's how it works, by the way. Once you defeat Marco Rubio and he has to retire from politics, instead of getting like a title belt or something, I am that senator now. I just take his office over. So we're excited about that. Yeah, we're in contact with the Rubio office. We're in contact with the McGregor and the Paul teams, respectively. So we're excited about that. There was going to be a me versus Mark Zuckerberg for a while. That was going to be for charity. We're going to do some charity boxing. But he never got back with me, probably because he is not a human. So we're focusing on Marco Rubio right now, and we're excited about it. It's going to be good. And no ill will towards him, you know. It's just banter, friendly banter. You know, yeah, you know, it is what it is. Just going to get him to retire from politics, that's all. He'll still be able to be a snake elsewhere. I don't know. But thank you so much for watching. May God bless America.
Jesus, I thought my improv was bad.